What is up? Happy Thursday. Welcome to Go FUD Yourself, episode 41. JD Gagnon here, my good friend Kiara. How you doing? Are you rugged again? Oh my God, Kiara is rugged again. Just for anybody that watches on a regular basis, she gets rugged almost every episode, and she has hardwired Ethernet in Canada. So I mean, it's not like she's living in a third world country working on.
I have a hardwired fiber, and I have from the thing to the thing. I've got the blue cord. Did all the tech stuff. I don't know why I keep getting rugged. I don't know what the problem is. I'm gonna have to move, I guess. Like, I don't know.
My conclusion is your computer blows, and it's time to get a new one. So we need a computer sponsor for Go FUD Yourself. So if anybody watching this, if you want to be a sponsor for like the next few months, all you have to do is buy Kiara a MacBook Pro. Hey, I mean, now we're talking. I'm selling my soul for a MacBook.
Didn't we see that Apple is super pro crypto, with the whole Bitcoin paper thing? Why don't we just ask them? Maybe they'll support us. Maybe
they'll sponsor us.
Yeah. Okay, today we're going to talk about FTX, because what the fuck is going on with FTX? It's wild. And then we're going to talk about safety and security. There's a couple of really interesting articles about that. Of course, we could talk about getting rugged and scammed all day, but we're only going to cover a couple of articles. And then there's a bunch of Degen news that I'm hoping we'll just power through at the end. But I don't know. We never get to the end. So
it should be a new segment, Degen news. Anyways, let's do it. All right, welcome back.
What are you wearing?
Yeah, hey, you're killing my segue here. So what I'm wearing is Safe, formerly known as Gnosis, which is an incredible multi-sig platform and many other things for deploying smart contract updates and a whole bunch of things. And this is in stark contrast to what happens inside of FTX, which is a black hole of individuals that make those decisions. With this, it's all on chain and beautiful and verifiable. Anyways, so
what are you implying about FTX? What are you saying?
What I'm implying about FTX is what the fuck. Pardon my French here, but
we have to make this episode explicit, not for children.
Yeah, we'll have to bleep stuff out. Forget that. I mean, honestly, if people don't like it, then so be it. But okay, so here's the thing. Good news. There's some good news, and then some what I think is like, really. The good news is they've recovered 7.8 billion of the potential 10 to 11 estimate of what is owed to creditors. That's pretty awesome, all things considered. Considering originally there was estimates that it was an $8 billion hole. That is now a $3 billion hole at worst, or at best, depends how you assess the $11 billion estimate. Long story short, what that suggests is that worst case scenario, creditors are going to end up with a little over 70 cents on a dollar, which is not that shitty, really. Like, I mean, I happen to be a fairly decent sized creditor. We had a good amount of assets there for one of the platforms. Luckily, it was market-making assets, so it's not like our runway is screwed or anything like that. It's mainly just tokens, but it was sizable enough that it didn't feel good. That's for darn sure. But anyways, so that's the feel-good part of this, and that's good. And obviously, the interim CEO and the Chapter 11 team and trustees have done a really, really good job. Then, I know you're excited about this. We read in these articles that FTX is thinking about rebooting in Q3 2023.
Yeah, and their token price doubled. Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Essentially, that's SVF funding his legal defense. I'm kidding, of course. But so here's the thing. Here's what I think about this. Was FTX a very widely used platform? Absolutely. Did FTX have some of the strongest institutional relationships in America? Absolutely. Are any of those people coming back to FTX? I don't think so. Like, I think the sentiment and the reputational damage is so extraordinary because of how many creditors there were, millions. I just don't think there's any possibility that it's going to become a meaningful leader in the space again. And I have a thesis that if they do launch again and they put in a new CEO that's not a bankruptcy trustee, that is not as well versed in all of this stuff, could you imagine the amount of regulatory scrutiny on FTX? Like, I just couldn't imagine it. Like, it would be debilitating, I think. It's already debilitating for most platforms, but FTX would be double debilitating. And so, I mean, this to me is just like, what? Like, whose idea is this?
It feels like nonsense. Like, I was reading these articles, and JD knows this because I called him beforehand. I was like, what the fuck, FTX? Which is how we got here to this headline. But so they've recovered a portion, but not all of it. They've been greenlighted to sell their European arm in Switzerland. So maybe that's how they'll come back to not being in the red. But it just doesn't seem to me like a great decision. Like, I wouldn't go work for them.
No, not after all this. Anyways, I mean, I wouldn't.
It would just be too stressful. Like, there's such negative sentiment. You're always going to be under scrutiny. Like you said, people might come back and invest because SBF isn't there. Maybe people really want to see FTX succeed, but it just seems like you could do something else.
Well, and at this point, it's like, do I want to bet on a horse that has a broken leg and maybe could never run again? Or do I want to just pick one of the other horses that are coming out or that already exist? And that's where I'm going to focus my investment dollars and my patronage and et cetera. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I mean, I think FTX just needs to go quietly into the night and shut the hell up, pay people back as much as they possibly can and go away. Because I think that the damage that they've done to the space and the unleashing of regulators that was sparked in no small part by FTX has had catastrophic impacts across blockchain right now, especially for people in Western jurisdictions. So for that reason, I think they need to just go away. Just
to play devil's advocate, I don't specifically believe this, but because I love to, maybe, they're already a household name. Right? Yeah, but they're already well known. Maybe they need to push through this and they'll be number one in the world because everybody knows them.
Yeah, that or everybody in the world knows them because it was a giant fraudulent scam. So they did have a good reputation before, but their whole thing, the whole reason that they were valued so crazy was all of their seemingly perfect relationships with regulators and how they were seemingly getting approvals for shit that nobody else could get approvals for. And they were apparently going to get a national securities exchange license, apparently, like that was in the works and all this other nonsense. Like, I mean, that was the momentum and narrative. But I mean, every regulator, every policymaker, every lawmaker that had anything to do with FTX has had their hands slapped pretty significantly, at least reputation wise. And I just don't see it. I just don't see anybody putting any of their reputation on the line for FTX now. Regardless of who's in charge, because it's just got such a negative sentiment. Anyways,
do you think that there's other potential security risks for FTX? Genuinely, like, we're talking about sentiment, we're talking about how users feel about using them, but like you said, they put new people in charge. Can the same thing happen? Can they stop another wild, Bahamas break?
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff can always happen until we have a meaningful and suitable path to some sort of compliance in North America, like whatever that looks like. I'm somewhat impartial. I have opinions, but that's fine. Yeah, I don't know. Security wise, I think this can always happen in a centralized environment. This can happen with any of the major banks. This can happen with any of the centralized actors. Unfortunately, we're finding out that all of the household names that we thought had pristine records seem to have a lot of this, dirt or skeletons in their closets, which is surprising to me, considering I know a lot of the people that have started and run some of these businesses, and you're like, what? So yeah, I mean, there's a non-zero risk. There's a non-zero risk of any centralized platform, which is one of the big reasons that blockchain technology was developed in the first place, and why we think blockchain technology is the future of finance. Not necessarily cryptocurrencies on their own, but blockchain technology for sure. A lot of the 0 to 1 innovations in blockchain involve, things being on chain, transparency, verifiable, immutable, composable. All of these things are very important functions or features of blockchain. And so unless you're doing something entirely on chain, which has its own host of risks, then there's always going to be some kind of centralized security risk or fraud risk or any of that stuff. Again, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said the risk, a percentage of risk or your risk exposure is somewhat adjusted for the yield that you earn. But it turns out that it's not risk adjusted. It turns out that there's way more risk than any of us ever thought. And it's way outsized the risk adjusted requirement to assume that risk. That we don't get near enough returns on any of these assets to substantiate that level of risk. So anyways, security wise, I mean, in terms of like FTX's platform security, like, are they going to get hacked and all this shit? I think the securities, that risk is probably smaller now than it was before, even though more people hate them because there's no assets there.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. You said earlier, the analogy, the devil, in a previous episode, you said the devil, is why blockchain was created in reference to TradFi and that kind of thing. But to me, that's also a push for.
I would never say that.
Yeah, you sure did. But to me, that's also maybe a push for innovation here, right? FTX is already the devil we know. We know what can go wrong with that. And I look forward to seeing what other kinds of protocols come out to compete with this.
Yeah. So along that vein, it's kind of like saying the grass is always greener, right? And you look back and you go, not always. Like sometimes it is greener, but often it's greener where you water it. We have to take some of this with a grain of salt. I mean, even a new platform has the same or maybe more risk if it's a centralized platform of some of this fraudulent activity relative to FTX. So I'm not suggesting that FTX is the only one that comes with this level of risk in a quasi unregulated environment, which is where we live currently. So I'm not suggesting that the devil you don't know is any less risky, or at least verifiably less risky, but at the very least you have one that has messed up, and hopefully all of those internal processes and so on have been adjusted. But it's very, very hard to change people's sentiment, as is the purpose for this show. People read headlines and just take it at face value. Like
this is actually, so sentiment is interesting too when we think about Terra.
Yeah, like
Did you see this? That Terraport had a $2 million hack just a couple days after they launched.
Yeah. So again, like this is, first of all, I don't understand why anybody is building on Terra at this point. Obviously, Doe has been arrested. Like the Terraform Labs team has essentially entirely been dismantled. A lot of them are implicated in some of this. I mean, why? Like they did the fork. There's Luna Classic and the new Luna or whatever it is. But like, why the hell is anybody investing or building on this ecosystem? The only answer is bag holders. The only answer is opportunists and bag holders. And that's never good for ecosystem security, because I don't know anything about Terraport at all. Don't know anybody that's involved with it. So this is just complete assumption. So don't take this as truth. But again, like, I mean, the minimum acceptable standard in Terra is pretty low. Like very few self-respecting teams are going to launch in Terra right now.
There are a lot of people who are pro Doe though, at least in the news.
Yeah. Again, I think that's a symptom of being a vocal minority. I really don't think, like, there's a lot of these like decentralization maxis, screw the government, fuck the IRS, yada, yada. They're very loud and they're very active in the space, but I think they're a significant minority. Maybe significant's the wrong word. A substantially small minority. Insignificantly small. I don't even know what the
antonym, JD. Think of an antonym.
Like, fuck, what's the opposite? But anyways, I just don't see it.
Okay, here's something else that's cool and different. We're gonna move on. I'm tired of all the FUD sentiment. Chainalysis and Calgary police launched a crypto investigation center. They're basically saying, I think it was 44 million or 144 million. Those are two very different numbers. Canadians keep getting scammed.
Well, there's not 144 or 44 million Canadians in Canada. So there's only 30 some million people in Canada. So someone reported incorrect numbers there, but nonetheless, why do we give a shit about this? Oh, you're getting rugged. Why do we give a shit about this? The answer is I used to live in Calgary before I moved to Miami, and Kiara lives pretty darn close to Calgary. So it's a little close to home. We also know Michael from Chainalysis really, really closely. So this is kind of exciting. Two of my brother and sister-in-law are both Calgary police officers. So this is just really hits close to home for me. But anyways, I think it's interesting to see Chainalysis, like some of Chainalysis' biggest clients in the US is the Department of Justice, the FBI, CIA, IRS. For obvious reasons, it just makes perfect sense that they're also supporting this in other countries. It's good to see police outlets in Canada starting to adopt some version of forensic analysis of some of these things, because up until 10 minutes ago, you could report blockchain and crypto crimes to the authorities, and they're like, okay, like what are we supposed to do about it? And the sophistication of Chainalysis is incredible, actually. Like they can really trace stuff in ways that the average person can't even fathom. And so it really arms the police, pun not intended, with resources to meaningfully investigate, pursue, and prosecute these crimes. And in many cases, can figure out where the assets ended up. Mm-hmm. And so that gives a path to some sort of recovery at some point. And so this is important not only because of the personal perspective that we have on this, but I think it's important because this is indicative, in my opinion, of what we're going to see globally pretty soon. There are other providers of such analysis, but no one comes close to the reputation, size, scale, scope of Chainalysis at the moment. So.
I do need to be a little bit fuddy about this. It's not that I'm not stoked, but I'm a little bit fuddy about it because if you read the articles and if you look at the basis for which they're doing it on, bureaucracy, right? It was a government initiative. And so they've been trying to do this since 2019 is when they started tracking. And then 2021 is when they tried to enact it. Now it's 2023 and we finally have it up and running. And like, that's pretty good for a government to get something going in 5 years. But also I wish that, so they're a little bit late. They're saying that in 2019 to 2021, we saw a 213% increase in crypto users in Canada, specifically in DeFi, which is kind of cool. But that was a while ago and now it's a bear market. So I wonder if they're going to get the numbers that they need, the numbers of scams that they need to justify having this. Yeah. Now, the other FUD point that I have is Canada really wants to control stuff, eh? Like our regulation is like...
Yeah, so that was going to be my comment. My FUD comment on this is this the red herring? Like, is this the distraction? Is this the thing that everybody can rally around? Like, it's easy to accept this as a solution. Yeah, something bad happens to you, you want the police to have the means to trace it and do all this shit. The slippery slope argument is if the police have it, so do local tax authorities, so does provincial tax authorities, so do federal tax authorities.
Hey, I'm not evading taxes. But
no, I'm just saying that's
my concern is more like, we're shutting down innovation for crypto and blockchain. We're preventing ourselves from being leaders in the world in crypto and blockchain. And then we set up a police center that will help investigate crypto and blockchain, which basically just tells me that we're setting up to ensure that we can't build anything good.
that everybody follows the rules in addition to, because crypto crimes are not just going to be me stealing money from you and the police chasing me. It's going to be, you didn't register appropriately. Where are all those assets? Let's trace them. Let's get them back. We have a claim on it. We've put in a new tax policy that you had no time to adjust to. And surprise, we're freezing all of your accounts.
Yeah. And I mean, for people who don't know, Calgary's pretty white collar, right? So I anticipate that this will be substantial.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I think in many ways it's a step in the right direction. I think we're going to see this globally anyways, whether we like it or not. And it's good to see that, when we have a problem, which I've had, as I've mentioned on the show many times, I've had multiple six figures of fraudulent scams that I've fallen prey to with the best of intentions over the last 5-6 years in the space, and there was nowhere to go. You go to them and they go, well, cool, we'll let you know if we hear anything, and they don't even know where to start.
It's like having your bicycle stolen. I know that sounds stupid, but like,
true.
Hey, we have this warehouse of bikes. We're never going to check any of the serial numbers. Did you write down your serial number? Do you have the color of your bike? Great. We'll never call you. Thanks for making a report.
Yeah. Do you have a recent photo? No. I don't randomly take photos of my bike. Yeah. So, I mean, again, like any story, you got to take this with a bit of a grain of salt. I think it's interesting. I think it's a step in the right direction, generally speaking, in terms of consumer protection, if it's used appropriately. But that's the problem when it comes to centralized authority, is a lot of these rules pass with bipartisan support because they make sense the way that they're positioned. But then if you dig down deep into what it also enables, often that's the shit that you really don't want to see. And we'll see how it rolls out. I don't live in Calgary anymore, so I'm just an observer now. Luckily, your background's blurred out.
I know, that was great. It was really perfect, actually.
Blurred out too. Yeah.
So Degen news, we've got a couple minutes for each of these. I just want to touch on them. We don't need to get super in depth. Twitter is going to be crypto. Are you stoked? Are you stonked?
Yeah. I don't really know if I give a shit about this. eToro is trying to eToro was a pretty prominent centralized platform in 2017, 18. They did a lot of really interesting stuff, and then they're an American company, so they ran into a whole bunch of problems with regulation in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know much about them anymore. Used to have a great relationship with them, but don't know much about them anymore. I think they're trying to become relevant in the wake of Fidelity adding crypto trading support and Robinhood adding crypto trading support and IBKR adding crypto trading support, which are the largest retail applications in America for trading. They're all adding crypto support. There's others that are also lining up to add some crypto trading support. I don't see it. Yes, Twitter, amazing. Telegram also enabled some sort of crypto transaction structure that I have yet to see anybody use. Or maybe it's just not available where I'm at. I don't know.
Send you $1.
I don't see it. I'm not sure why people would want to trade on Twitter.
Well, some people get their alpha from Twitter, right? Maybe it's like the single tab.
Yeah, but like,
I don't know. I don't care. Let's move on. Let's go to Limewire.
No, I kind of like this though, because I think it's interesting to see Musk trying to innovate in very unpredictable ways. And although I was kind of like, what? Like, why? What? I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to be trying new things instead of just
like Musk.
I have a bromance with Musk. Did you see his BBC interview the other day?
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. It was awesome. He stood up to the guy just like he deserved to. Anyways.
All right. Limewire.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. I think it's dumb and I love it. So Limewire, for anyone who's too young, is a way that you could download music a very long time ago in like the 1700s, I think. So what's really interesting about this is there's now a Limewire game that simulates an old Windows operating system. And the deal is that you have to go and collect different songs from the early 2000s and late 90s. It's very Web 2. You have to enter your email address. You're collecting these songs, and then you don't actually get to play them. Like, it's just a game. You don't actually get to interact with the music at all because Limewire doesn't have any rights to the music because they never did. And then whoever's on the leaderboard will probably get some of the Limewire token when it launches. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Airdrop farming. Okay, here's my thought on this. In isolation, whatever. I remember using Limewire, obviously, when I was a kid. I remember the whole Napster thing. I used Napster before Limewire. I say a kid. I think I was an adult still when that shit came out. But anyways, I was adult already, not still. I haven't become a kid since.
Still.
But anyways, so what you probably don't know, and what I don't think I've ever talked about here, is there's 2 Web 2 platforms that are very quietly, but in an incredibly meaningful way, building blockchain powerhouses. One of them is Roblox, and the other one is Limewire.
I knew about Roblox, did not know about Limewire.
I've had the luxury of actually meeting the founding teams and management teams of both. Not the entire team, but a few of the core contributors. Limewire, mark my words on this one. In about a year from now, this will be so painfully obvious why Limewire is doing this. It's pretty incredible. And the way that they're enabling Web3 in their current ecosystem is pretty incredible. We've heard a lot of hype and talk about music NFTs and licensing and royalties and all of this. This completely changes the game. They have over a decade of experience in the music industry and have every relationship necessary. There's no one better positioned to crush in the music space. And Limewire has been investing heavily for a meaningful amount of time already. So this is not like something they came up with to test the waters. This is in fact something meaningful. So
I just thought it was a little bit weird. I think all of that's very cool. I just thought it was a little bit weird because it's so demographic specific.
Yeah. So another thing to think about here is like, would I actually complete any of this? And the answer is nope, surely not. And a lot of people probably are like, but my counter argument to that is even though I wouldn't do it just because I'm pretty much lazy and don't care that much about airdrop farming, I think it's legitimate. Like I think this.
I'm going to go be top of the leaderboard.
I think this, in fact, actually does imply a lot more underneath the surface of the iceberg that's about to come. And I think, if you have a preference or a leaning or an interest in music NFTs, if you think that's a space that's going to take off, which I absolutely do, I wouldn't completely ignore this. I don't know if I'd suggest everybody participate, but I wouldn't ignore it because it's, in my opinion, the very first step of something pretty incredible. So,
you know what else is pretty incredible is the new Uniswap mobile wallet.
Yeah. I have interesting thoughts on this.
Let's do it. Okay. Uniswap released a new mobile wallet where you can buy crypto, I guess, from your phone. I don't know. But the fees are supposed to be wildly low.
So 2.55% fees are not low at all. So, just to swap on Uniswap currently, it's generally in the neighborhood of 300 or 30 basis points, which is 0.3%. But now they're talking about 2.55%. I'm assuming they have a fiat gateway. But again, Coinbase is not 2.55%. Like a lot of these other platforms are not. So if they're going for convenience, all in one, whatever, it will be a huge revenue center. The same reason that MetaMask, when they started implementing their swap aggregator, they were making like $300,000 or $400,000 a day. It's probably tenfold that now. Even though the fees are crap, you pay double the swap fees, you pay MetaMask and you pay the exchange fees. People use it because it's easy, it's simple, they don't have to think about it. So yeah, will this work? Probably. Will they make a buttload of money on it? Yep. Will I use it? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to make the space better? No. I have a bit of a thesis on all of these platforms creating bespoke wallets. And I have a solution, not one that I'm creating, but some good friends of ours that I think will solve this problem because there's a lot of limitations to the current wallet infrastructures. We're seeing ecosystems build bespoke wallets to deal with their technologies, et cetera, but they're not meaningfully composable, a lot of these wallets. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But it's very difficult to build a wallet. Like there's a lot of concerns, there's a lot of considerations in making it useful. We see a lot of platforms building wallets now that are raising exorbitant amounts of money to build a wallet. What is the potential upside of the wallet? Zero for many of them. In this particular case, there is a revenue model, which is interesting. The other things that I think about is Uniswap, in my opinion, as not an attorney, is walking a very thin line in the US because of their volumes are so extraordinary, because the founding team was originally US citizens. I don't know if Hayden's renounced or whatever. I know he's not in the US, at least as far as anybody else is concerned. But anyways, this will be interesting. I'm not sure how regulators are going to deal with this one because Uniswap, if any crypto assets are considered securities at some point in the future, Uniswap will have been an unregistered securities exchange. And that will come with a whole host of problems. So is this cool? Yeah, maybe for new entrants into the space that Uniswap is their entry point, which I suspect we will see more people onboarding directly on chain as opposed to onboarding directly into centralized exchanges because of FTX and all the nonsense that many of these centralized exchanges have put people through. So I think it net might be better for the space, but as an individual, I won't use it. That's it. And you're frozen. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next one.
Last one. And I'm actually really funny on this. I think it has a cool factor built into it that people are going to love. And I think it's not stupid. It's just not that unique. It's not that original. So essentially, FalconX is using ChatGPT so people can research crypto, but like, great.
Yeah. I think this is like a little bit more bark than bite because getting the enterprise API for ChatGPT is not that difficult. It's their business model. So, I mean, although there's a wait list and it's not super quick to get it the first time, once you get it, you've got it. It's quite cost effective. And the whole point is to be the Lego block underneath a lot of, more niche AI use cases.
So here's using ChatGPT for something like customer service, right? And I only looked into that because everyone else and their dog is looking into it, which is why I think this is cool. It's great that you're going to name it Satoshi. People are going to lose their minds for it and be excited, and they're going to get on the hype. And then I'm going to FUD about it because it's not that cool.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is GTP4 is still limited to the end of 2021 and does not search the internet. So if you want information on crypto pre-2021, then great. But until GTP5 or web search is enabled, which it's not meaningfully enabled, there's people that have put solutions together that will search the internet and then feed that into the large language model of GPT. But it's not the same. So you're getting outdated information, which in crypto is completely useless. In any investment trading ecosystem, you need real-time information. That is the difference. That is the edge, is speed. And so, yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. And it will be really cool especially when it can be real time. But I'm not going to go to FalconX just to use this when I can just use GTP4, which I use all day, every day. So
nonstop.
So to me, this isn't
actually a deep fake. JD is just GPT-4.
I'm not actually even a real person. Yeah, this is all just trained on my idiosyncrasies and personality.
That's our Degen news today.
No, wait, I have another thought on that. Don't cut me off. We're not done yet.
We're over time.
I know we're over time. Everybody, if you don't want to watch, don't watch. Is what I'm saying to all the beautiful viewers that we have. But one other thought on this: when it comes to like trading strategies, like I've seen a lot of this shit on Twitter for like even stocks and all of this stuff. You got to remember that like asymmetry of information is the name of the game. If everybody has the same information, you do not have an edge. So, I mean, unless you've built a unique and gated AI ecosystem for trading, everybody's going to have the same information. And it's only using publicly available reported strategies and stuff. So anyways, if everybody has the same information, in my opinion, the edge is not there. So take that with a grain of salt. Anytime you see anything AI related that says, oh, we'll build trading strategies, or we built a trading strategy that had 3,000% returns over the last month, sign up for our platform and give us some money and let us trade for you. Yeah. Don't fall for that nonsense. Until we have a very large custom model that is only accessible by a few people, which will be insanely expensive when it is. I think this is a bit of a nothing burger, but will be cool for the FalconX people that don't currently have access to GPT. I understand that we're probably on the front end of that adoption curve too. Like we've been playing with AI for years. Most people haven't. So if you're a FalconX user, again, you're probably not like a super direct on-chain, like Degen, DeFi person, and not naturally an early adopter. This could be a really cool really cool option. So I can see why
like my mom's gonna think stuff like that's cool, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think it's again, net, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a lot of a nothing burger in terms of like meaningful long-term value accrual, but I guess we'll find out. FalconX is a great company. So I would suspect this isn't the end of where they're going to go with this. They've got a lot of smart people there.
Well, this has been weird because today I was the FUDster like all day.
Fuck. I was like, I'm the one that's trying to be positive about this stuff.
You've just been lighting love since we logged on. Like,
yeah. Usually I'm the one shitting on everything, but not today. Anyways, sorry for going over. Thank you everybody for your additional attention for an extra
like, subscribe, etc. And tomorrow is FU Friday, and you have a guest.
And I have a guest. It will be exciting. We were going to do it from a private jet, but didn't work out. I don't own a private jet, so not yet.
Yeah, that makes it really hard to do that.
Yep, unless you know people with private jets.
Go find yourself, JD.
I will go fund myself. You too. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Later.